How's it going, everybody? Andy McCullough, Dylan Hernandez. They're not dead yet, Dylan.
No, smile, man.
I'm fine.
Plashke says this could be the biggest game in the history of the city, right?
It's the biggest game that I've ever covered, except for the other Game 7s I've covered in the last 3 years. No, big game tomorrow. The Dodgers will host Game 7 for the first time at Dodger Stadium ever in stadium history. They never had a Game 7 in the World Series, and they did it because they won tonight. The process works again.
Yeah, and I think, even kind of before we get to the process and the whole bullpen thing, first was just kind of getting Verlander out of this game, and scoring against him. I mean, here's a guy, right, in the scoreboard there, every time it's like 95 or more, you see that like fire graphic come up.
Right.
Pretty much every pitch you see fire, and if it's not fire, it's like something was straight down. And it looked, I was already thinking of leads in my head about how, Koufax,
the Dodgers stink by
Hershiser,
Dylan Hernandez,
Verlander, right? I mean, it would have been
good.
That's kind of how it felt like the night was going, and this team just kind of, like we've seen so many times this year, just kind of found a way to get it done.
They did, yeah. I mean, the offense got him out of there in sort of ridiculous fashion. Austin Barnes gets a hit, Chase Utley somehow gets hit by a breaking ball, and it seemed like the first off-speed pitch that Verlander lost all game. Chris Taylor, is able to sort of punch a double, and then Corey Seager's a sacrifice fly, and all of a sudden they're up 2-1, and they went back to the process they've used with the relievers, for so much of this year, and they were able to get through it. I mean, this was like deja vu from Game 2, but like a mirror image on the good side. Like they got Verlander out in the 6th inning. They had a lead. They needed 9 outs from a power right-handed reliever in Kenley Jansen. And tonight, Kenta Maeda got them 3 in the 7th, and then Kenley went 6 in 8 and 9, and they got it done. And
this, folks, is why you read the Los Angeles Times, because if you had picked up the paper today, right, I told you about how, the one thing about this team, is the fact that, in the way Dave Roberts and the front office have operated, is they got a way of doing things, and, even when things are going bad, like that stretch where they lost 16 of 17, they kind of just stuck with what they were doing. This World Series started with Cody Bellinger not hitting at all.
Right.
They kept him in the middle of the lineup. Again, after the Game 4 thing, or the Game 2 thing, right? After the game, Robert says, "You know what? I would do it again."
Right.
And he
did it again. Literally did it again.
And it's kind of this. He has, he talked, right? Roberts has talked earlier in the series about just kind of having faith in the process.
Yeah.
And it kind of got to a point where you're wondering, this bullpen looks really tired. Is it the smart thing to do?
Right.
It worked out for him. So now I think the story becomes, Dave Roberts' great faith was rewarded, as opposed to, intellectually inflexible Dave Roberts cost the Dodgers the World Series. But that's how it goes. The results, end up writing the story. So,
as the owner of America's most famous laptop, Farhan Zaidi, said after the game, it's all binary. So, I mean, yeah, it's crazy how similar this was to Game 2, because obviously it's a rematch between Hill and Verlander, but also Hill, 3rd time through the order, they turn it over, there's 2 guys on, George Springer's up. What does Dave Roberts do? Calls down to the bullpen, in comes Brandon Morrow, who just got crushed in Game 5. And Morrow had a day off, bounced back. He was sitting 99 against Alex Bregman, gets an out, gets him through a couple more outs in the 6th, and they were rolling. And so, we'll see what they have tomorrow. It's gonna be really interesting. Your guy, Yu Darvish, on the mound. Do you think he'll be better than he was in Game 3? I guess it'd be tough to be worse.
Yeah, and I absolutely think he will. I think he's actually going to go out and pitch well. What was interesting about Game 3 was when he spoke to us in the news conference leading up to that start. You could see he was visibly nervous. He's kind of talking in very muted tones. His sentences were very short and kind of clipped. And today, he spoke very eloquently about a number of subjects, from Gurriel to the slickness of the baseball, and kind of what I wound up writing about tonight was just how this team has made him feel very welcome. We're talking about a guy who, in Japan wasn't particularly close with his teammates in high school, or with the Nippon Ham Fighters. It sounds like it took him some time to develop relationships even on the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, for sure.
And the fact that they've kind of opened their arms to him, and after right before Game 4, actually, the game Alex Wood won, they were telling him, "We're going to win this game for you," just because Game 3 was so bad for him. And today after the game, Justin Turner in the clubhouse made sure to seek him out, give him a big hug, says your time's tomorrow.
Right.
you know, we'll see if maybe, you know, that could obviously add more pressure.
Right.
But just kind of the way he's seemed, I think he's going to pitch well tomorrow.
Right. And I think if you look at the way the bullpens are stacked up, the advantage has to go to the Dodgers. They're going to have Alex Wood. They're going to have Clayton Kershaw. You know, Kenley Jansen probably only has 3 outs to give, but I assume they'll be very high leverage. I mean, you could see conceivably Kenley come in the 6th inning if Correa or Altuve or one of those guys is up, because you could close the show with Wood and Kershaw. And so it could be really interesting to see how the Dodgers deploy their guys tomorrow.
And I'm really interested just to see the atmosphere, you know, because today,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I've been around this organization now for 10 years. I don't think I've seen...
And you look it.
I definitely do. It's been a long 10 years.
Kids, this is why you don't go into baseball writing. This is how you'll turn out.
Yeah.
And I'm like I've been in it 8 years, and look how I look.
Yeah, I was a middle distance runner in high school, believe it or not, and I was actually...
I was an offensive lineman, but I was way skinnier than I am now.
Yeah, but you know, every pitch they were reacting to, right? Gurriel's at bats, they booed
Oh
for the
my
entire
gosh.
duration.
Rich Hill gave him the business.
Yeah, he did, you know, and so I'm kind of curious to see how this crowd is gonna react tomorrow, and if they win, how the city's gonna react. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully, folks, please don't, you know, tonight, even after the victory, you could just see, you know, behind the Dodgers dugout, a bunch of fans were there. They just didn't want to leave. It reminds me a little bit of a great prize fight, you know, where I remember kind of at the end of the Ward Kovalev fight, people were just kind of hanging around. They didn't want the night to end.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people obviously further distorted their sense of time by smoking marijuana, it seems, because I could smell it up in the press box. But I have a feeling that if the Dodgers win tomorrow, it's going to be kind of nuts throughout the city.
Yeah.
Please, folks, do not flip over any cars. Please don't burn anything. Please don't do anything stupid.
Right.
Please don't make our city look bad, because this should be a real kind of shining moment for Los Angeles.
Tomorrow night has a chance to be one of the greatest nights in Dodger Stadium history. You know, they've never hosted a Game 7. It's been 28 seasons. This is year 29 of the drought, and it could end tomorrow. It's it's not once in a lifetime, but it's pretty close. It should be fun. So you can follow us on Twitter at whatever the Chirons say. You can read all the coverage in the pages of the Los Angeles Times and also latimes.com/Dodgers. We will see you tomorrow for Game 7.